18 September 2024, we are going to discuss articles from The Hindu and Business Standard newspapers. First article we will be taking from The Hindu. What is continuing distribution of the death penalty? How India's death penalty has been changed over time? How several laws have been changed over time? So this article we will discuss from death penalty point of view. The life of death sentence in India, this is unending. If you see, this is like it comes in different forms. Suppose say crime happens in one state, suppose say in Telangana against women, then the state comes up with some new law, and then they will bring a new clause stating that if women or girls below 12 years they have been sexually harassed or molested, so that causes are increasing in country several times, so they will be put up under death penalty. These kind of laws coming from different forms even now and then also. Now if you see in latest edition, there is a scheme from West Bengal government, basically West Bengal Criminal Laws Amendment Bill 2024, Aparajita Women and Child. This is given by West Bengal government. Why? We all are aware there was a brutal rape and murder of doctor in Kolkata Arjikar Medical College and Hospital. Even this bill, West Bengal Criminal Laws Amendment Bill, they wanted to amend Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita BNS, and then Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, and POSCO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, in order to apply those concepts to state of West Bengal. Even amendment to all these things, the state want to introduce death penalty for causing rape in the state. Though the bill unanimously passed by West Bengal government without any issues, state governor, he was very critical, and then referred this bill to President of India, basically Draupadi Murmuji, for consideration. In the same month August, there were several such cases in other states, because many of the survivors belonging to Dalit and Adivasi communities, basically those are women and children. Those women, they were attacked, they were sexually molested and harassed. You might have seen several times in the news. So several cases came out of the statism. If you see in 2022 year itself, National Crime Record Bureau recorded 31,516 rapes in India, nearly 4 numbers for each hour, and 248 cases of murder with rape or gang rape. If you see certain states, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, they topped with a list of 5,399 cases, Uttar Pradesh with 3,690 cases, Madhya Pradesh with 3,029 cases. They recorded respectively. This shows how gravity of situation coming into these kind of states. What about the global data? Amnesty International, this is one NGO, if you see, basically protecting human rights. By the end of 2023, nearly 3/4 of countries, they had abolished death penalty in law of practice. 112 countries, they completely abolished death penalty in law for all crimes. Even 144 countries, they abolished death penalty in law, even in practice also. But 55 countries retained death penalty in law and even in practice also. What do you mean by law? What do you mean by practice? Suppose say government do the legislation, basically parliament and state legislature, their work is to make laws. These laws will become act, and then those act will be applied on the people. So these legislation, they will include death penalty, that is called a law. And then if those things being practiced through our justice system, we have district courts are there, high courts are there, even highest form of court, that is Supreme Court is there. So this death penalty will be practiced there. If you see South Asia, Bhutan and Nepal, they are only abolitionist for all crimes. Maldives and Sri Lanka, they are abolished in practice. India with Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they are still retaining this law and practice of the death penalty. Project 39A, this reports, Project 39A is from India. India recorded 120 death sentences. There were no recorded executions. Even the number is down from 167 in 2022. Basically 167 cases are given as a death penalty. Later those death penalties will be commuted to life sentence. They will be put in jail for almost life, suppose say 35 years, 37 years, and after that they will be released. By that time their biological life would have been completed, and then it is assumed that they have spent quite time in the jail, and then the reformation process has been completed. If you see, there were 561 people under death sentence in India at the end of 2023. This is going to rise since 2019, because 2019 there were only 378 cases. This can also highlight this is the highest death row population in calendar year for almost 2 decades. Most of these death row prisoners, they spend several years on death row, with some being like they will be exonerated, basically being free of guilty, they will be exonerated later. They have like they will go under severe psychological, physical, mental health problems. Even state government won't compensate. This will suggest all these things. There are a lot of procedural flaws are there. Even apart from that, caste, class and religious biases, those things will pervade into different institutions in the India's criminal justice system. And then people who reside in the highest power of the firm, they will execute all these things, and then the bias exists. Suppose say one boy from Muslim community, I'm just giving the example, suppose say one boy from Muslim community, he does something wrong, then entire community has bias towards that community, right? The population feels biased towards that community. These kind of biases, this will create an unhealthy democratic system in India. This will lead to even communal violences also. Suppose say one boy, he has created some crime, and then he belongs to Dalit community, then he will be executed without any thought process, without any thought putting behind. There are several politician kids, even our film star kids, Bollywood mafia, they do all sort of things, but no case happens because they have the muscle power. But we need to believe in our justice system. Justice system is doing well, but we know our courts are plagued with many number of cases. There are almost 4 to 5 crore number of cases pending in all forms of courts in India. High Court, Supreme Court, District Court, if you take anything. If you take, like it will take almost 30 years to solve those cases. 30 years means basically you are, half of the life has gone completely. Now considering people's biological age will be almost 60 to 70 years. So this is very great thing. Some of these prisoners, they may commit suicide because there is a inhuman prison condition. They are made to live. Like, there are prison overcrowdings are there, and these trials are, those trials not happening because those who commit these crimes, they belong to marginalized community, and then they left to defend themselves, and they don't have any alternatives also. If you see, these kind of people, they constitute 3/4 of the total number of people that are jailed in India. Suppose say 100 people are there, 75 people come from low like community and low background data. Unfortunately, this decolonization language that gave rise to this BNS recently, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, basically like, previously we call it as Indian Penal Code. Though it gives you some positive changes, this Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, this has increased number of offences punishable by death from 12 to 18. India even shifted more deterrent regime for sexual offences without any significant change in women's safety and empowerment. If you see the nature of offences where death sentences have been given by Sessions Court in 2023, there were murder involving sexual offences at the top of the chart. 64 numbers are there. Sexual violence against women and children, VAAC. This basically, the victim is killed. Most of them led to, like outburst of the public anger, grief, shock. There will be demand for capital punishment from certain sections for those rapists. They have been termed as, like Rakshas, Haven, Veshi Darinda. They will use all the derogatory terms. I'm not saying we need to directly give the capital punishment. There should be some thought process. Our justice system, this should be plugged off all those conditions, and then proper justice and trial should be carried out, so that you know those victims who have been raped and brutally assaulted and killed, they get their justice part. We don't need animals in our society. We need a good society wherein society lives in harmony. This kind of framing creates othering. What is this? Accused is not from the same society that we inhabit. So othering basically means, suppose say one person, he lives among us, he carried out one attack and some like bad heinous crime, then we feel that he is not from us. So this justifies death for them as a tool for like our revenge. And this also seems to be rooted in India's religious and societal culture, where we celebrate death, basically killing of evils by gods and goddesses. Even we celebrate Diwali because of killing of devils and all. So our mythological, even our Hindu culture, even our cultural festivals, all are rooted in killing evil and then triumph over bad things. So this is even celebrated in India, and then this immediately gives rise into the mind of the people that we need to give the death penalty. Such kind of calls for justice to victims mostly those honor their family, community, nation. They ignores victims' autonomy, and then that they want, even this will be reflected in judicial discourse also. On the other hand, there is a normalization and political legal tolerance every day by violence against women and children by men. They're including public flogging, sexual violence, killing. There are several things are happening. Even worryingly, searches for victims videos on trend basically in Google, and there are several social media sites. Some news comes means several times people go and search whether what kind of women she is. There are such trends are going in India several times. Justice Verma committee, they made recommendations, and then they argued death sentence should not be given because this will not create a deterrence. So basically deterrence means fear against crimes, those crimes such as sexual offences, those kind of offences such as gang rapes. But Union Cabinet did not consider these kind of recommendations that were given by Justice Verma committee. You can remember this Verma committee, we have discussed several times. So objective behind death penalty is not fulfilled. The punishment politics of sexual violence, this must be dismantled by infusing abolitionist feminism. There is also a concern to bring human rights based language to masses. Majority of the masses, they do not have access to it, and the mass have thought towards death penalty, they are shaped by cultural and religious narratives. There must be also abolitionist feminist movement to refuse death sentence, even life imprisonment with parole as a response to sexual violence including rape. These kind of movement, they should try to understand, and then they should work upon social clauses, and then cultural conditions that led to violence against women and children. We need to find the root cause. Basically we need to identify the root cause, and then why these violences against women and children are rising. Those things need to be addressed. These kind of structural issue we need to work on, and then we need to redistribution of land and wealth for the marginalized community. Then we should ensure their representation in all spaces and institutions, both in private and public. And there should be radical shift towards properly funded public education and healthcare also. Even government and society, they need to work on targeted support and a range of state facilities for rape survivors in order to give them good education, employment, health, marital and family life also. And then they also need to be provide support for family of rape survivors, particularly if they are from minor siblings, and in terms of their access to education and resources, and take part in community building, realization of the fraternity, so that their dignity ensured as per our Indian constitutions. But these are all the complex issues. How we need to start? All the time there is a victim based centered procedural institutional reforms, even some sort of beti bachao beti padhao, these kind of policy initiatives. This will eliminate patriarchal notion of the family and community, and then nations that are residing in female bodies and virginity. If you see India, India is a patriarchal nation. Basically, most of the time, male dominates over female. All the decisions will be taken by male member of the family. Ignoring the problems mentioned above, like whatever we have discussed, this will make abolition movement, this will become superficial, and then this will be forced from the top, and then top will do all kind of acts, legislation, that means from central government or state government they will do all those things. From bottom we will not be doing anything. That means from the society these changes should arise. The death penalty, this is the safest escape route from accountability, because it won't burden the state with hard work of reforming police, prosecution, judiciary, even supporting survivors also. There is a culture of utilizing existing research for evidence-based informed policy making by center and state legislature that need to be inculcated to avoid this knee-jerk populist reaction that led to criminal justice. There should be research should be conducted out how socio-religious background of judges that will play a role in awarding death sentences. India is a society, this is striving for social change through legal reforms. Even India seeks to care the safety and support of the rape survivors and families alongside state accountabilities. We must remain attentive to how this apparent law, including like contract, family, labor, property laws, they construct socio-economic status of women and children, particularly those belonging to downtrodden communities and castes, and then other marginalized communities. This asymmetry, this will distribute wealth, knowledge and power. We need to distribute all these things so that this symmetry should be maintained. Some section of the society may be forwarded excessively, but some sections of the society, they have to bear brunt of the everyday oppressions of the society. Abolition of the death penalty and creating safer environment for women and children, these are the complex issue. They need requirement of understanding, teaching, engaging in law, those things critically. There must be admission of public talk on caste, religion, gender-based violence, even through intersectionality lens, including by organization people who champion these issues. Feminists, several times they argue that sexual offenses are more about power than the sex. There is need for public and judicial awareness campaigns, to debunk the myth of the death sentence leading to reduction in violence against women and children. We need to bring gender equity from within the private spheres, within the family, public sphere, rather than distributing death penalty and sentence inflation all at once. Punishment alone cannot change the society. We need to bring a lot of structural changes. This is about distribution of the death penalty article. This is long article and good articles also. Next article we will discuss about demographic advantage, how India need to utilize its demographic advantage in order to become economically superpower in coming decades. India's economic giant, basically there are several things have been written. India is the fastest growing economy. Currently India stands at fifth largest economy. India is even aspiring to become developed nations by 2047 with $30 trillion economy. But one thing we need to understand, demographics. This will play a major factor in pushing the rise in India's economic factor, because India's median age, what do you mean by median? Most of the people that are having age is around 28 years, and then if you see India, 63% of the population is of working age. So India can utilize and harness these things. But international labor force participation rate, this is at 55.2% in 2022 according to recent report released by International Labour Organization. This goes to state that falling labor rate intensity, this is likely due to growth being led by service sector rather than manufacturing. Basically, India's service sector, 50% of the GDP comes from service sector, but it is less accommodating people, and more, we should focus on manufacturing sector. Therefore, this jobless growth is happening. More steps are needed to harness demographic dividend. What are all the things we need to do to bring the reforms agenda? First and foremost, there is need to press ahead with ongoing reforms agenda to maintain, if not accelerate, India's growth trajectory. This will create opportunities galore. There was a welcome reference by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in budget speech. There will be a initiation and incentivization to improve productivity and facilitate markets and sector to become more efficient. While there is much things about center that has done to enhance this ease of doing business, and then much needs to be done next in order to increase our production. Even there are several concerns for the state. So there, hence we need to look back, and then we need to broaden and deepen reforms so that we can utilize demographic dividend. Economic survey for 23-24 this states technological advancement, this has led to decline in capital to output ratio, and then this led to increasing capital to labor ratio also. Even perhaps in the context of Arvind Pangaria, he is the economist and chairman of the 16th Finance Commission. He spoke at Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry FICCI. Capital-led economic growth is not ideal for country because abundance of the labor. When you put lot of capital into service sector, this will not give anything. We need to put in intensive sector, manpower intensive sector. So the reluctance of micro, small and medium enterprises. If you see micro, small and medium enterprises, they are the backbone of employment. If we grow them in size, in scale, as well as that of large business houses, so this will put labor intensive sector, and this can be attributed to compliance burden, even cost imposed by outdated labor law. So we need to focus more on micro, small and medium enterprises. They will push a lot of reforms. Even the impasse over implementing new labor codes approved by parliament, this will be a sending wrong signal for the existing and prospective investors. The important one is one or two states, they have evolved manufacturing ecosystem, they have broken all these things, but rest of the states they are lagging behind. Central government efforts to boost manufacturing sector, this can be viewed from the angle that 45% of the workforce employed in agriculture sector, that only contributes 18% of the GDP. So you can understand, in America only 2% of the population will be under agriculture sector. Rest of the things comes from manufacturing sector and service sector. Even manufacturing sector, this will employ a king lion share. But when it comes to India, manufacturing sector is performing very poor. But agriculture sector, 50% or more population depending upon this. Here article told 45%. Only contributing 18% means there is something lagging. We need to take steps to enhance agricultural productivity, and we must not forget those who are engaged in the unorganized and non-agricultural sector. Almost 19% of the workforce, they are highly fragmented. They suffer from low productivity. It is very important to address their aspirations by focusing on high growth potential sectors like toys, apparel, tourism, logistics. They are labor intensive. Because these skills get upgraded, there will be opportunity to move up the value chain, even provide better and higher paying jobs. How to do skilling? Skilling is a continuous process. If you see skilling, this is an important aspect of making future generation productive members of the society. Even economic survey highlighted only 4.4% of the workforce of age 15 to 29, they are formally skilled. This is a very huge concern. Suppose say there is difference between labor surplus and skill shortage. Thus that must be addressed by meaningful public private partnership, wherein industry will come, they will play a huge role in giving skills and then integrating curriculum and then imparting on job training. Skilling is not one time intervention but lifelong process. This requires flexibility in institutional mechanisms, even in learning agility also. If you see new education policy 2020, this focuses on its foundation skills, even higher order cognitive skills, critical thinking. This is a good step, but in a constantly changing world, the document must be viewed and periodically updated. National education policy also lacking about how skills need to be integrated. These things must be viewed from several point of view. If you see artificial intelligence and machine learning, now this is the era of this AI and ML. There are repetitive tasks with low skills that are most at risk because they will not need any human intervention. They will be replaced by artificial intelligence and machine learning. We must not underestimate the impact of this artificial intelligence or machine learning. Neither we should demonize, state that these are bad for the country. The key is to have appropriate regulation so that we can harness their use and then we can propel forward. In order to opportunities offered by various emerging sector, artificial intelligence and machine learning, They estimated by Statistica, they grow nearly 9 times to become almost 826.73 billion worldwide by 2030. Further, according to this National Association of Commerce, NASCOM, India already is the second largest talent pool globally in this field. But current gap between demand and supply, that is 51%, this is projected to widen also. Though this is very niche, it is opportunity that should not be missed, and then we should utilize this opportunity to grow further. Gainfully employing large young aspirational population, it is not easy, but it is far better challenge to have dealing with aging, one of the attendant economic and societal implications. We have good economic growth, but we have good demographic dividend also. We need to advantage, we need to take a sweet spot in order to take a holistic approach so that we can create a talent pool, we can harness its demographic dividend for future benefit of the world at large. This article is taken from Business Standard. Global power, basically India's global foreign power, this is challenging, even changing several times. So in this article from Business Standard, this article has been taken. We discuss this article in detail, how India's global power is changing, what kind of approach India should adapt so that we can remain superpower. India is a developing country. We have low per capita income of $2,500. This even gives a lot of information about income and wealth inequalities. If you see, India is the 134th rank in out of 193 countries in Human Development Index. What is this index? This will measure progress of the socio-economic welfare of the country's population. Even India aspiring to become developed nations by 2047 with $30 trillion economy. This is very important to India's independence. Even this will be 2047 will be 100 years after India's independence. We can classify India as a low middle income country in per capita terms. It is high gross domestic country because at macro level, if you see, India is a $3.5 trillion economy. India is the fifth largest economy in the world. But this also hides several facts about gap between India and its peer. United States, if you see, this has 26.3% of the global GDP. European Union 17.3%. China 16.9%. But India has only 3.6%. So if you see in international relations on relative weight counts, India's modest profile even in macroeconomic terms also. This kind of greater influence, this can be derived from other factors of India. India has the world largest and still growing population. In the previous article, we discussed about our demographic dividend. This could potentially asset for India, even most major economies, including China, because China is declining and aging its population. So India has young manpower we can utilize and harness in order to bring a development in the country. India is also fastest growing major emerging country. There is a steady growth of 6 to 6.5% annual growth in GDP. If this thing is sustained, this would position country as a significant economic and commercial opportunity when there is a stagnation in global GDP. Even when we should consider India's role in dealing with global challenges such as climate change, public health, food and energy security, even technological challenge also. The very nature of transnational issues, this will make impossible for even strongest nation in the world or even coalition of the industrialized and developed countries such as G7 to find these kind of comprehensive solutions. But India independently, without support from any other country, have taken strong measures in this thing. International Solar Alliance we have started. There are several measures we have taken in climate change arena also. Global regimes, they are addressing these challenges. They no longer impose the rest of the world by most powerful countries. If you see, emerging economies, they are not only able to prevail in these global arrangements in any specific domain, they are also enjoying this negative power of being able to prevent such arrangements from being imposed. These things will create impression that emerging countries, they have been obstructive in international negotiation. Contrary to this, these countries, they have become more effective in safeguarding their own perceived interest. If in case of India exercised own influence in the past and will continue to do so also. And it will, India needs to develop much larger and more qualified capacity to navigate increasingly complex negotiating processes. There is asymmetry in India's economic and social development indices. Still ranks low in economic and social development indices. Its global profile, this has gained a more prominence in the present pattern. There is a pattern of development that is quite different from that is experienced by established industrial economy, where there is an increase in share of the global cake went to hand in hand with steady improvement in individual social welfare and their citizenry. If you consider world countries, suppose say United States of America, France, and then United Kingdom, even European countries, they have started industrial revolution much earlier than the newly emerging countries. That's why they are so developed. In case of India, we just completed 77 years after independence and we are still becoming emerging country and we are excelling. But the benefits of industrial revolution, benefits of the development, they have already enjoyed by those countries almost 200 years ago. Then they colonized our countries, they made us beggars or even poorer because they just looted country resources, and then now they come up today and talks about human rights issues. This is very pathetic to see. But those countries, they are developed countries, basically I'm talking about developed countries, they are not coming, they are not helping developing countries or emerging economies. This is very bad state of affairs, and then this will keep inequality in terms of the world countries also. For example, if you see United Nations Security Council, we don't have permanent membership, though we are key member in United Nations Security Council. Even if you see, no African member country has been granted membership in United Nations Security Council as a permanent member. Even South American countries also, they have been not granted. If you see Latin country, Latin America we may call, those countries also do not have permanent membership. So there is a huge growth in this inequality asymmetry happening in the world. But the large share imposed by developed countries on developing countries, this is very bad to see. There should be some cooperation. In the global role, these emerging economy, they face this kind of dichotomy, and then they are facing crisis in this management of this global commons. But at the same time, these countries, they seek to global arrangement that will provide resources and tools to address significant domestic challenges. This is very important for country in the midst of all the challenges, from major transition from developed country to major emerging power. Finding right balance between global role and imperatives of the domestic challenge, this is not easy. This must be sought in every case. India's pursuit of multi-alignment and active participation in minilaterals, regional functional groupings, and engagement in conventional multilateral forums such as United Nations, they will all pointed about the trends. India sees no contradiction in its part in quadrilateral United States, America, Japan, Australia, and India. This is membership. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, even in pursuing cooperation in BRICS and BIMSTEC, these kind of regional organization we are taking. Even India successfully hosted G20 summit in New Delhi. These efforts will mark India as a global power with wide range of interest. This asymmetry of India's domestic capability and global profile, this will pose a complex challenges for its foreign policy. On the one hand, there is a satisfaction of having found seat in the high table, but not given permanent membership status in United Nations Security Council. Even this is not backed by economic and technological security capabilities. India's influence in global governance is also limited. Our main concerns remain economic and social development of our people. India remains a demander in global system, whether it is trade, climate change. We both are contributor and recipient of the global public goods. In pursuing negotiations for more supportive climate change regime or demanding both international finance and technology transfer for our own development needs, our priorities are different from the big players, including China also. When should we concede to what is expected of India as a global player? Sitting at high table, when should we resist, especially such of the concessions, that will undermine development interest of our still poor populations? So, should we identify as a global South country to take precedence over our aspirations to be recognized as a large power? These kind of questions we need to understand. These things will continue to persist in India for several years to come. On each of these things and on the global agenda also, we have to seek item specific balance where India's role as a global actor does not undermine our ability to deliver the specific development needs of the millions of our citizens, but also we need to seek a balance. We must relevant to our interest and we need to bring a huge focus on the global country. We have almost all the time stated, even we have maintained in our cultural, our physical traits that satyameva jete, truth alone will triumph, and then loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Entire world should be in good shape. These kind of small changes will bring a huge focus on the international domain. So this is the article about how India need to manage this challenging transitioning power. So today we discussed three articles in detail. Thank you very much for discussion.